Soon the surrounding space glowed with the firelight of the ball, enveloping all 4 people inside. It's a bit dazzling, but Luli still has clear vision. Then he rushed past him, wanting to finish him off right before the skill was completed. He hooked his arm across his stomach but couldn't remove the mark, so he successfully completed the barrier. It's just that because the moon blade pushed him away, the circle of light missed the 2 victims. Rafi and Luna helplessly called out his name but couldn't. They had to stand outside and curse "Dong damn it," but they were pulled into the skill field. But every player knows that this barrier only benefits the person who uses it. Depending on the barrier, the user can receive special skills or power buds for themselves. Sometimes it also has the effect of reducing the ability of the enemy. The most difficult thing is that no external force can break the barrier, only at least the user or the opponent inside is completely dead before it can be removed. In other words, this is a one-life game, so Luli doesn't dare to be careless. He immediately pulls out his knife and takes a stance in front of the illusion of the barrier. Bam Ni is now king and lord in his own world, sitting calmly on the throne under the starry sky. Looking at Noyet, he looked like a small, humble animal. He was dressed in a calm white cloth. "Hello, Luli has come to my world. Feel honored. This is the origin of the holy light, the place that washes everything clean. Even sin. Hurry up and complain about those lame pants, Luli." He hates Kyo the most when he acts like this. He didn't say a word and rushed towards the president's chair. His right hand was raised up as if to catch the sparkling star reflecting in the sky, gently letting it fall to the ground where Luli stood. Exploded with a fierce sound that lit up the entire illusionary citadel. Luli quickly slid out of that place. His body was still intact, but his arm had been struck by lightning and burned black. The smell was like over-roasted meat. How could he have known that the move was shot from a ball of light in the air? That's why he didn't recognize his path. It avoids it promptly. At this point, he was startled to suspect that the shameless guy smiled and explained. "You think right, this holy light that pushes the sky is all my skill. You can't avoid it even if you want to avoid it. Before baptizing you, I was still a little curious. How dare you attack me? Could it be that the dark forces have already infiltrated the warrior camp? If asked, Luli is ready to answer because I will use your life as a sacrifice for that child's soul." He wondered which child. Making him angry. Ban's face darkened and he swung his sword. "You are her most sincere belief." He waved his hand and shot out a stream of energy, but it did not reach him and instead exploded in the space between the 2 people due to the collision with 3 large lights in the sky that combined to block them. He stood up and waved his hand one more time to counter the powerful attack of the corrupt Saint Kwang. So terrible that the tile floor felt like it was about to crack under the white smoke. A moment later, there was a sizzling sound that doubled as the burning smell of over-roasted meat, which had now turned into charcoal. Luli gasped, her hands were charred black, and the young man seemed to have become less and less angry. Han Bak and I leaned back on the chair and calmly chatted. "It turned out that you came because of that Saint Kwang's body. I guessed wrongly. A difference in ideals. If I had explained clearly before I used the field barrier, maybe you wouldn't have died. You and I don't have any personal conflicts, just different ideals." He asked contemptuously what different ideals were. "Together." He nodded and frowned, confirming that it was exactly like that. "Because I have discovered the limits of the world, knowing that 6ly do not understand Han Bam and I, but also fattening my belly." Explained since he became the president of the Kwang Song Church. The daily task was to announce quests related to monster extermination to the heroes who had come here. Thanks to this profession, we receive respect and support from the people. Every brave warrior who completes a mission and receives a reward will smile with 10 teeth and leave. Each day passes like a poem. We did the same thing and said the same words, but the heroes who came to us were different. We heard them discuss new things that were far removed from what we had known. So my friend and I himself had the idea that I could also go out and see the world from the outside like other people. That's when I decided I would also go out and see the world, and Han Bak and I did not regret that the outside world was so vast and rich. Everything was completely new. For the first time, he felt the word freedom, more precious than gold. But every time he went out to explore, he saw more and more dark monsters multiplying strongly. At first, even if he tried his best, he could still fight them. Later on, he didn't have a chance. He thought to himself, could darkness hold the free light that he had always admired? So I started going everywhere looking for ways to make myself stronger and met many strong warriors. I concluded that the answer was nothing other than leveling up. But for the easy level guy, it's like that for the player but not for him, no matter how many monsters he kills. He doesn't see himself progressing and there's no system for missions like people don't give up. Han Bat and I searched from south to north from day to day until one day Saint Kwong recognized the efforts of the president, this guy, and gave Batni a hint. Comes from a small and weak creature named Dwarf Rat, who was easily trampled to death by one of his kicks because this type of monster is really so small, so they understand even more that the only survival theorem is to get stronger. Right from birth, they have the instinct to kill each other to survive and eat and kill their siblings. When the synergistic powers gathered together in one place, they easily completed leveling up and evolved to a new level. Luli began to realize what this guy wanted to say and asked again, so Saint Kwong's body also is that your answer? He confirmed that by the way, not everyone can become the body of holy light. Only the most devout believers can be called the body of holy light. It provides us with high purity nutrition. To level up, Luli gritted her teeth and cursed at Rafi's younger brother. This guy is an animal. It's really too gentle. Comparing this name to an animal will only make the animal feel embarrassed. But Han Ban and I didn't care what he thought, he still kept that casual smile on his lips and continued to explain that the people he had saved from the monster's mouth were much greater than the people he had contributed to. I think it's reasonable to consider it as a prisoner. Talking about that, suddenly the fun stopped. The Han Bai and I tightly clenched the glowing fist and ended the TV show. Time was up. Then he died and once again developed the depraved holy light and fell heavily on his head, but this time Luli already knew. As soon as the sparkling lights on that holy light ball flashed, he waved his hand to launch dozens of sword blades into the air to directly confront that golden light. They exploded at Dom Dop like fireworks and shattered. Just make Luli open the ring and that thing can be destroyed. Seeing this little brave hero and discovering his secret, Han Bai and I frowned unhappily. Why don't you just refuse to die? As he spoke, a long slender spear appeared in his hand, emitting light. Like a professional javelin thrower, Han Bak and I directly raised his hand and threw Saint Kwong Chi's spear straight at the bad guy in front of him. Luli didn't know this beast could summon light into his hand and freeze it into a weapon. He widened his eyes in disbelief even when he saw that thing pinning into his hip, penetrating straight through in pain that made him bleed. 3 more sharp spears shot forward, slamming into Luli's body, turning him into a bloody cactus in an instant. Han Batni sat up with satisfaction and spread out both hands, very cheerfully declaring that I will represent the holy light to achieve true freedom. You, the obstacles blocking my advancement, will never understand. Where can I get this greatness? Luli Sugarcane Grove. I want to curse him but his body hurts so much. His mouth and body were bleeding, so he had to curse in his heart. He was just a crazy pig trying to break out of the fence. I don't know if you two have the nerve to curse, but the nun seemed to hear what he just said. He frowned with hatred, then opened his mouth and rushed towards Luli, not even bothering to flaunt the flashiness of a demigod, just wanting to put him in his mouth and bite him. Suddenly, at that moment, the system howled loudly, causing Luli to smile. Delighted, he saw it warning the broken bones and the moon appeared. The beast's glowing hand was grabbed and he opened his mouth wide in horror, confused as to why his pants were tied here like this. Laughter in the voice of the moon blade. You can clearly hear this hand controlling the balls of light, right? Then let your father speak softly. I'm a bone dryer but my eyes are very poor and I can't see the things that are hidden. Get away from where you just disassembled the Han Ba and I joint. The system pops up a red status window indicating that the achievement book has randomly opened another page. It named the mission wrong as if the system knew it was wrong but still tried to title it as a random mission that had an adjustment to kill the guild leader Saint Kwong. If the mission fails, the Moon Slayer will die. He used his other hand to slash towards the moon, but he successfully retreated. Because the bloodless skeleton was not hindered by blood loss, the movement's speed only increased. He lightly clicked his feet and his whole body soared into the air like a light pink feather. Seeing that Chop Noyet escaped his attack easily, he turned his face back to his human form and looked at him, roaring as expected. "You come from darkness, you despicable monster. Even if I didn't use a field barrier or even without one hand, I could crush you easily." Noyet just stands there and waits for someone to slash her. His tattered skeleton emitted a murderous aura that sounded ominous in the air. His pair of red eyes looked like 1, 2, 3, 5 bright stars. Scanning some basic lines of the enemy's branch, Fong let them crackle like overloaded electricity. At first, 137 joint attacks warmed up the joint. Then he increased it to 456 and then 728 again. Chop Noyet increases the speed to slash continuously for 999 times. Soon the sky was filled with dark red and black lines that gradually darkened like his face at that moment. He looked at the falling yellow pieces and stammered. How could he do that so he wouldn't hear what Xalo said? Decipher the moon decisively for a basic line across the neck and a bonus Tai Con lead combo on his royal face. That body was blown away by the wind and shattered into pieces. At the same time, the sky above exploded with loud sounds like congratulatory fireworks. Trim Noyet has successfully completed the secondary copy. So, outside, Rafi was jumping up and down impatiently but couldn't do anything about the ball. Until the characteristic red and black light of Brother Fong shot out. He just yelled out and then came out, causing Luna next to him to startle and frown and look after him. Luli appears in her untransformed form with the skill recharge VIP fruit flying in the sea of cool tricks and burning fleas. Rafi ran back and hung on his brother's shoulders. He didn't care how Luli got out, but he kept praising the tower and all. Only Luna walked behind wondering how to pass the level alone and kill the boss in the virtual barrier. Seriously, how did he succeed? Calmly walking forward, Luli invited her younger brother to pick up the fallen equipment and put it in his pocket for now. Only then did he remember that the king's huge body was nowhere to be seen. He had to explain that it had stopped scattering in the wind right before Luli went out. This means that his death has eliminated the Rafi's burning skill, who was about to tell Mr. Hai not to go there. But from afar, Luli heard the heavenly cries of the kings. He took the body that had lost the upper part of the breakfast and called her name continuously. He carried the child and went straight to St. Kwang's shrine, fulfilling his last wish to be a part of this place before the child died. Luli tried to suppress her emotions and did not turn back, but asked the two of them their mission to follow. Have I finished yet? Of course not. As soon as I asked, the status window popped up and a chimp kept saying mission failed. Hidden mission failed this time. The system reassigns random missions, it also erases mission progress. This time, restarting a new character line takes a bit of time. Because Luli accepted the mission and followed it for several days, restarting inevitably took a whole day to pass. Who knows if I'm about to be exterminated or something? The buzz echoed in the building, causing the golden pupils to open wide in shock. Breakfast, wake up in your bed. She began to clasp her hands together and perform the morning prayer. She muttered the holy light illuminating all things and coming back to life. In her heart there was light and clouds and clouds. After a long series of words filled with excitement, he clenched his fists. He had just started breakfast, climbed out of bed to start a new day, he was full of energy and ran out of the house mumbling that today would be another day full of holy light. Check the bag you carried to see if it had enough medicine. I hope Anin's wound is better today than yesterday. The little girl quickly left the house. As soon as the villagers saw her, they were friendly. Tien waved and asked, "Are you going to the mountain to pick medicine again today?" He obediently smiled, "Greetings to Grandpa, Uncle Vong and the neighbors." Immediately an old man carrying a large basket of medicinal leaves approached and reminded him that there was a very large man-eating monster on the mountain. You should go up and pick the medicinal herbs and carefully nod your head to show that you understood. But when I left there, having breakfast alone, I thought to myself, what kind of man-eating monster is that? I haven't seen one since I've been up the mountain for so long. It suddenly got dark in front of her, but because she was so lost in thought, she didn't realize there was someone standing there. Crashed and fell to the ground with a painful thud. It turned out that the village chief was holding out his hand with a bright smile. This girl walked on the street without looking at anything before or after. After breakfast, he discovered that behind him was another person wearing a white robe, waiting silently. He heard the village chief ask to check if this girl was the person he was looking for. He immediately smiled and accepted. Stroking her breakfast hair with a pampering look, the village chief introduced her as the girl who prayed the hardest and didn't miss any rituals. The other person knelt down to breakfast level while praising the good girl and blurting out that this body was truly the body of the holy light. But breakfast's face turned pale. Run away and scream no, I don't want Saint Kwang's body. The village chief thinks he's just a child who doesn't understand and runs away on a whim. But the breakfast tears had already fallen. She had been lying all the way. Holding her bag tightly, she wondered why she was so rude to adults. But the feeling when she heard that she had the body of Saint Kwang was really not happy at all. The little girl cried and ran in the opposite direction from someone much taller than her. Suddenly I had the feeling that the young man had just said that the holy light was really nowhere else but in my own mind. I was stunned and didn't understand. He clearly didn't move his lips or look at me. Why does it feel like he's talking to me? Why do I feel like this guy seems familiar? I've seen him somewhere before. The village chief looked at the breakfast and ran quickly, sighing. I'm sorry, sir. Please don't be angry with her. She's still young and doesn't understand. He didn't answer. He just thought to himself that the purity of that girl's belief was not bad. In a few more years, she could definitely become the body of the holy light and perfection. The demon's smile bloomed under the white helmet. Such a good thing. Why don't I just give it to the president? It's such a waste. Why don't I catch it and raise it after it gets fat and slowly enjoys it? So he said to the village chief in a calm tone. Bring that girl to me later and I will check it again, not knowing that Luli had heard every sentence and every word as soon as he passed by. When he immediately left there, Saint Kwang hugged his neck, blood pouring out like a stream right before the village chief's eyes. That place was suddenly filled with screams. I was afraid of the sound of people running to see and quickly called the doctor, but he must have had cold feet. In the forest not far away among the dense shadows of trees, the orange-haired munchkin was sitting and plucking flower petals. Counting to 0, 0 to 0, wondering if breakfast would come to visit him. His heart was filled with joy and anticipation of smelling the scent that permeated him. The breakfast was so sweet and lovely that he wanted to take a bite and then shake his head. Why can't you bite the breakfast? You're not his food. It's such a fierce struggle with thoughts. Just one bite and your reason will blow it away. Suddenly, DM Tam's voice rang out, thanking him. He saw a small figure waving at him from afar. The scene where she and the childhood king meet each other. There were 3 silhouettes sitting on high, retreating, looking at everything. Luna softly exclaimed, if it weren't for the failure of the last mission, perhaps we wouldn't have been able to see this scene. But why is the new mission still delivering breakfast to the Kwang church? Rafi is just waiting for that and then curses. What trash mission is that? I don't know. I won't do it. Luli stood up without saying a word, making the other 2 watch in silence for a moment. The only sound left was the wind. He put his hands in his pockets and coldly called Rafi to go on the next mission. He was very happy to cooperate with her this time. Hey Luna, see you later. All of a sudden, my brother doesn't understand anything. Why do you want to separate? We are cooperating very well together. Or should we just stay in a fixed team like this? He didn't intend to argue and walked out of that place. He reminded his wife to remember that she had something to do, not here to play games. He didn't dare to argue, so he ran after him, but he kept complaining that on high was always cold to her. Girls. Luna did not speak, just silently closed her eyes and asked herself the question of why the NPCs and monsters in the game deviated from the originally designed scenario. The missions were no longer consistent, many unexpected directions appeared. Maybe this story has something to do with the dawn of the century. Those questions were unanswered, but Luna knew she needed to take action, so she stood up and told the two brothers. I don't know what everyone's goal is, but I feel like we need each other's abilities and should have trust in each other. In fact, everyone is eager to do the next things, right? Seeing Luli silent, she quickly raised her hand towards who told us to get acquainted from the beginning. Respond to the name Luna, Luli's family guard. Of course, I'd be happy to introduce myself, my name is Rafi. He still reached out to hold that hand and pointed out the two words Tram Noyet. Damn moon, why is this such a strange name? Cut the moon in half or cut sadness in half. Luna didn't say it or reveal her thoughts. Just smiled friendly and sincerely hoped he could succeed.